Hello everyone, it's Friday, May the 25th, just before Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day weekend. I am out for my second attempt at trying to complete the southernmost loop in the Lost Creek Wilderness area. Did this a few months ago and it was covered in snow and only made it about 4 miles in, maybe 5, before setting up camp for the night and turning around the next day. So, as always, I got my companion Mika with me. She's made certain to stop at every stream crossing so far. We're about 20 minutes down the trail. We are heading west on the Hankins Pass Trail. So we started at Goose Creek Trailhead and we're going to work the clockwise direction. And like I said, we're about 30 minutes in. There's a lot of people out here today. The parking lot was extremely full, limited parking. However, I have encountered about 5 different groups of people that are doing trail maintenance. So, don't know if all those cars in the parking lot were for trail maintenance crews. I have talked to a few of them. They said that this is the first duo with a dog they've seen on the trail this morning, but they've seen several people hiking already. So, check in periodically. And once again, Mika's going back to get some more water. And hopefully we can do this trail within 2 or 3 days. And thanks for joining in with me on this adventure. Alright, about 30 minutes from the trailhead, came across a campsite. I'm not going to take this one. This is too early on my day. But for anyone that's planning future trips, pretty nice campsite. Right on the trail, so if you want to follow regulations and not camp within 100 feet of the trail, then this is not a campsite. You got water running right down there, so readily accessible. You got some decent shade coverage from all these pine trees, and because of that, we got plenty of pine straw and lots of dead and down trees and limbs. So if this was fire season and you decide you want to make a campsite, it's not or if this is a season where you want to have a fire and you're not banned from having a fire in these areas, might be a not too shabby spot for about just a 30-minute walk in from the car. Alrighty, just a few minutes shy of 12 noon. So I've been hiking for, water break. Been hiking for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes, something like that, and it's just a gorgeous day. It's supposed to be highs of 70s. Obviously, as I get higher up in elevation, that may change a little bit, but absolutely beautiful day. It's supposed to be a beautiful weekend. A chance of isolated rain or thunderstorms on Monday, so I hear, but hopefully I'll be out of here before Monday afternoon, or just right at it. Depends on how badly my legs hurt and how this trail fares on my body. But absolutely gorgeous day so far. The entire first hour has been nothing but hiking alongside a creek, so there's plenty of water to be had. So, you know, if you bring some water from home and you want to guzzle it the first mile or so, feel free to, because there's plenty of water here during the spring and summer season right now. Or if you're bringing a furry friend along with you, plenty of water for them to stop and drink at. You know, practically every 2 to 5 minutes there's a stream crossing or you come right up against a stream. Alright, time's about 12:30. Still continuing westward on the Hankins Pass Trail. Man, much better time now compared to when I did a few months ago. In about an hour and a half's time, we've made it to where we camped out last time. So this is where we pitched a tent in the snow and the freezing cold. And then the next morning we got up and we started to make our way up that trail. Made it about, I don't know, 20 or 30 yards up the trail, and the dog decided she wasn't going to go anymore. So then we turned around and we went back down that trail, all the way down the valley, behind that dead pine tree there, and back to the car. So we are probably somewhere close to 3.5 or 4 miles in, I'd say. But this is where we camped last time. Alright, about 1:45. Those last up and downs, or mostly ups I guess you'd say, killed me. But finally made it to the junction of Hankins Pass Trail and Lake Park Trail. And so you take Hankins Pass and go on down and then hook up with Brookside McCurdy. But we're going to bypass that and go to Lake Park Trail. Being that it's all getting closer to 2 o'clock, I know that there's, at least from what online, there's limited options for camping if I continue going west on Hankins Pass Trail. But once I get up into the Lake Park area, there's supposedly water and food. Or not food. I have food, but there's supposedly water and good places to camp. So we will check back in a little bit. So far, made it a little ways up the Lake Park Trail. We're just over 10,000 feet. I feel like I'm taking a break probably every 3 to 5 minutes. I've been doing that since a little over 9,000 feet. It's just taking it out of me. And Mika, she's enjoying these little breaks. Aren't you, girl? Smile for the camera. Say hi. Alright, so I found water. Found a small little patch of it here that I'm accessing. There's a larger body right over there. I don't know, that's maybe 30 yards in length. This is all marsh bog. This is all saturated. You sink in it, shoes get wet, so if you brought sandals or spare shoes, this is a good place to bring them. Or make certain that if you're going to come out in your hiking shoes that you do this early enough so that your shoes have time to dry before you have to start the trail tomorrow morning. The actual trail is over in that direction. I don't know if you can see those two rocks out there. Let's see if I can zoom in on it. No, I can't zoom in on this one. There's two rocks over there, two roundish rocks, and that's where the lake trail actually is. And like I said, there's some guys set up there already this evening, so I made camp over in that direction, probably about 100 yards. And I don't know if those other guys know that this water's here. It's a little bit of a pain to get to, and I'm not going to promise it's the cleanest water. I said it's in the middle of a field where all the animals come to gather, but I've got my life straw, or if someone boils it or something like that, or they have another filtration system, should probably work just fine for them. This would probably be an awesome place to just sit out at night and just see if you can find wildlife just coming up into this place to get their evening fill of water or first thing at the crack of dawn. It's absolutely quiet around here, other than the fact that there's some sort of airplane flight path directly over us. And I don't know if you can make out that light green tent over there, but that's me. I said about 100 yards or so straight that way. So now that I got water, I'm going to head back to my tent site and see what I can do about making dinner. Alright, it's about 6:40 in the evening. I made it back here at a pretty late time up to the Lake Park Trail area, or at least, excuse me, the Lake Park. I was struggling trying to get it up that steep area up at the last part. Those last few miles were tough. There were only two places that you went down or had level terrain, and one of them was maybe 2/3 of the way through the Lake Park Trail to the camping area, or to the actual Lake Park area itself. You had about a 50 to 75 yard jog where it was just flat and actually went down just a little bit, so it was quite pleasant for someone who's been hiking up for a few hours. And then as you're entering into the Lake Park area itself, the trail probably goes down for about 200 yards before you get to your first noticeable campsite area. The campsite that I wanted was already taken. There's two guys in there, so good for them for beating me to it. But with that stated, I searched around a little bit, and I came a little bit more on the, instead of being on the southeast side of, or I came down to the southeast side of the lake and found some relatively open area, flat area, where there's a lot of evidence where people had camped previously before. My guess is during busy season, this is where people end up at. One of the downsides of being up here is there's not actual real water per se that's just flowing out of a stream. This Lake Park area is more of a bog or a marsh, and for the about 100 yards I had to walk out into the bog before I could find actual standing water. And there's an area that's maybe about 20 yards wide or so, and it's got water in it, but for the most part it's just a big sopping wet marsh. We also had pretty light snow this year during this winter, so perhaps maybe on a year with better precipitation it would appear differently. But just make sure that you filter that water or boil it or something along those lines, because there is evidence of animals all over the place out here, and that makes absolute sense because it's a source of water. It's really the only source of water that I've seen ever since I started on the Lake Park Trail. So once you leave Hankins Pass Trail, as you start approaching the Lake Park Trailhead intersection,
I'd advise you to make sure that you're topped off on water and filled up, ready to go for the night if you plan on camping, or at least enough water to get you through until you make it back down to McCurdy Park Trail area. I understand there's some water there. I'll find that out tomorrow. So there's moose droppings everywhere. You can't walk more than 10 feet without walking into a pile of moose droppings. So most of them seem pretty fresh. So I might try and get a video later of some moose if they'll come close enough, or if I can zoom in enough across the bog area. The whole lake part area is probably, I don't know, 300 yards around, or 300 yards in diameter possibly. So there's plenty of room out here, but depending on which direction the moose are coming from, they may smell my dinner, or they may smell my dog, and they may smell me after this hike today, and they may not come anywhere near me. But hopefully, if we're lucky, we'll see if we can get some videos.
Okay, so it's about 10 minutes before 8 o'clock. I'm done with everything I need to get done for the night. I am in my sleeping bag, put on a fresh pair of dry socks, put on an extra long sleeve, got out my beanie cap just in case it gets chilly tonight, and Mika is already ready. She's exhausted just like I am. So hopefully we get no critters that decide to come pay my campsite a visit tonight. That'd be really disappointing if they do, or maybe exciting, but I'd rather just sleep through the whole night if possible. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I hope it does. So until something exciting happens, or until tomorrow morning, have a good night, y'all. Alright, so it's just about 6:30. I was up about 5:30 or so, packed up my campsite and everything. I am just now leaving the lake park area, finally made it through it, and I'm starting to come up the trail that takes you up out of Lake Park and up to the highest elevation of the trail. Right now we're about 10,900 feet. Like I said, it's about 6:30. Sun's just starting to come up over the mountains over there. You can't see it because we're on the trail and in the woods, but we are going for it. Alright, 7:15, just came off the summit of the Lake Park Trail, and what a relief to be going downhill. And should be downhill all the way, if I read the maps correctly, pretty much downhill all the way down to my next trail intersection with Brookside McCurdy Park Trail. So very nice to be finally going downhill. Some beautiful camping spots right along near the summit of the trail. So for any of those, or for those of y'all that are doing this loop and you make it to Lake Park and determine that you need to push on for about another half hour to an hour, depending on how tired you are, and you just want to get a jump start for the next loop part or the next segment for the next day, you know, camping out near the summit of the Lake Park Trail, almost to 12,000 feet, not a bad idea. There are some beautiful rock outcroppings there that you can camp right up against, But just keep in mind that if it's going to rain or there's any chance of lightning, you definitely don't want to be up there. Your tent would get soaked from all the water running off the rock outcroppings because you're literally right up against them. And of course lightning because you're right up at the top of the mountain. Alright, 7:40, just made it down off of the Lake Park Trail, as you can see, which was back that way. Pleasant descent all the way down from the summit. Now we're going to head north on the Brookside McCurdy Trail for a small stint before we take the McCurdy Trail. If you had not opted to take the Lake Park Trail, you could have stayed on Hankins Pass and then come up the Brookside McCurdy Trail that direction. But I want to go Lake Park, so there, the experience is now under the belt. You can see the bird. Alright, we are past the trail junction of the Brookside McCurdy and McCurdy Trail. We are now on the McCurdy Trail. McCurdy Park is back that direction. I didn't really get out and take a lot of pictures. Went off, took one picture, then got back on the trail. Interesting geologic shapes, no doubt about it. They're showing on the maps, the topographical maps, that there's water in McCurdy Park. There very well may be. I said I did not go exploring. I do know that this stream is what comes out on the northeast side of McCurdy Park. And so I am literally just past the part where the stream starts to be about 20 feet away from the trail. And so I went ahead and refilled. Nice, clean, cool stream. And water tastes good right about now. .35, still headed north on the McCurdy Park Trail. This is a pretty steep descent, so I'm so glad I didn't do it the other way. This has been a lifesaver, a welcome blessing compared to yesterday's hike up Lake Park. The steepness of this trail reminds me of Bar Trail if you're hiking Pikes Peak, and this is like the grade with all the switchbacks and same scenery as well as Bar Trail, just north of Bar Camp. So south of the A-frame, or below the A-frame, but north of Bar Camp, all those switchbacks and the gravel and the aspens and the evergreens. Just reminds me a lot of that. But for Still plugging away, heading north. Checking in a bit. Alright, so we've already descended down into the valley on the McCurdy Park Trail, and now we've gone all the way down to the bottom. Now we're starting to come back up again. And so this is up on the northwest corner of the southern loop, and it's not that it's terribly steep. It's just that I'm still kind of worn out from yesterday's uphill climb, and it's one of those situations where, once again, I'm taking all these short breaks every so often, like every 4 or 5 minutes, stopping for 2 or 3 minutes and then going off again. So it's uphill. Don't let anyone tell you that it's all downhill from Lake Park. It is. There's some uphill here, but hopefully we'll be getting to the end of it soon. Sure enough, after the last video, it wasn't more than 2 minutes before I had met the ascent of the trail, and it all started going downhill from there. About 10 minutes after that, I got to what I believe is Refrigerator Gulch. And so we started way up there, not at the peak, the pointy peak there, but down in the saddle, right in over there, if I am correct. I believe that's where we started, and there's that view of the waterfall and looking over the valley. That's where we started, if I'm correct. And this is where we stand right now. Absolutely beautiful. Made it across the river just fine. Now on the west side of the river, heading towards Goose Creek Trailhead, or Goose Creek Trail. Still going to be quite some time, and I don't know if I'll make Goose Creek Trail or not. It's about 11:15 in the morning on Saturday. Approaching Refrigerator Gulch, and there's this is the same stream I crossed maybe about 15-20 minutes ago, but here it just kind of goes into a pile of boulders. Definitely a unique landscape. Okay, it's about 12:45. Still hiking eastward throughout the Refrigerator Gulch. And there's been a lot of uphill. Finally got to a point where we're kind of leveled off a little bit, but there was definitely some uphill through that. Stopped and had lunch. Had me a Jello cup and some Jif to go peanut butter. Mika was certainly able to finish that off for me eagerly. Going to get to a clearing and show you what we're hiking around. So we were on the other side of that today. Yeah, so we were on the other side of that earlier today. We've made it to this side. And we still got to go over there's a way before we make it to the end of Refrigerator Gulch, or meet up with the Goose Creek Trail. And from there it's just all south on the Goose Creek Trail for about 6 miles, give or take, maybe 7. Back to the car. Don't know if we'll make it there tonight or not. We'll just have to see how things go. Alright, it's about 1:30. One last look down Refrigerator Gulch. Almost to the Goose Creek intersection. Still a lot of uphill. A lot of switchbacks. A lot of uphill. But once we get to the other side of that wall of rock, then we'll be in Reservoir Gulch. And I'll be following the next side of rock, or the next rock along the wall on the eastern side, heading all the way back down to the car. It's about 3:40 on Saturday. We are south of the Shaft Mine House Trail intersection. Still headed south on Goose Creek Trail, trying to get back to the vehicles. We're only about 2 or 3 miles from the car, but I am beat, and so is Mika. That's where we're coming from. So as you can see, there's some uphills on Goose Creek, but hopefully just a little bit sooner, and we won't be having to make this journey uphill, and it'll just be all the way downhill, except for the final 200-yard dash up to the trailhead and the parking lot. But yeah, looks like we're going to get this done in 1.5 days, one nighter. But I am beat. Alrighty, so some time has passed since we last chatted. It's about 7:45. I am at home. I have taken a shower, and I am ready to get in bed and pass out. I am exhausted, just as well as the dog Mika is. We made it back to the Goose Creek Trailhead, where the car was parked, just a few minutes after 5. So with that stated, we did about 6 miles on the first day, starting about 11 o'clock, and we made it about another, I'd say somewhere between 16 and 18 miles on the second day, starting before 7 a.m. and then wrapping up just after 5. So exhausting day and a half or 2 days, however you want to phrase it, but it was quite a scenic hike, but definitely exhausting. Being Memorial Day weekend, there were tons of people out there. I probably passed somewhere between 50 and 75 people on the trail, and when I made it back to the parking lot, there were cars double parked in the parking lot, as well as all up along the main entrance of the trail, and then there were cars all the way on the western side of the road, bumper to bumper, all the way back to the horse corrals. So if you've ever been up this way, then you know where the horse corrals are. But they were just lined up bumper to bumper, and then even in the horse corral parking lot, there was probably about 24 cars there. So lots of people getting out and trying to do Memorial Day weekend in the Lost Creek Wilderness area. So to recap, we did the southernmost loop of the Lost Creek Wilderness. We hiked it in a clockwise direction. We started at the Goose Creek Trailhead off of Goose Creek Forest Road, and then we quickly diverted off Goose Creek and went west on the Hankins Pass Trail until we got to the summit of Hankins Pass, and then we went north on the Lake Park Trail. We camped in the lake park for the night, and we left early Saturday morning, and we continued north on Lake Park Trail till we summited that trail, and we ended up coming back down to the
Brookside McCurdy Trail. Followed that north for about 3/4 of a mile. Then we merged onto the McCurdy Park Trail. Followed that all the way north, and eventually it starts to turn east. Followed that all the way through Refrigerator Gulch until we got to the Goose Creek Trail at Reservoir Gulch, and followed that trail all the way south back down to the Goose Creek Trailhead. So thanks for watching. Hopefully it's useful information for those of you that are trying to learn more about this, and I hope you guys learned something, because I had a blast, but I am exhausted.